The film begins in the town of Nisswa, Minnesota, where we meet young Peter, who makes a living delivering food. Peter faces difficult financial circumstances, often being haunted by collection calls that stress him out even more. At this moment, someone knocks on Peter's door. When he opens it, he is quickly knocked out by a stranger. When he wakes up, he finds his old friend Rebecca, to whom he owes money. She is frustrated, tired of his defaults, and demands payment. Peter only has half the amount, and Rebecca suggests he hurry with the deliveries, as her patience is running thin. Peter leaves his home and heads to a man who buys used goods, but he becomes frustrated at receiving a very low amount for his items. At that moment, his food delivery app notifies him of a new order, and he rushes to the establishment, where Tom warns him not to delay deliveries, having heard that he owes money to Rebecca. Starting his deliveries in the cold town of Nisswa, Peter soon encounters a snowplow truck, unaware that this vehicle would become a major problem for him. Realizing he is running late, he decides to overtake the truck, but the driver doesn't like the maneuver and honks. Ignoring the horn, Peter continues on his way and makes his first delivery. As he proceeds to the next ones, he finds the truck again while talking to a car salesman. Frustrated with the vehicle's slowness, he finally honks, while the driver, noticing his impatience, lowers the snowplow blade and signals for Peter to pass. However, when attempting to do so, he almost causes an accident by suddenly encountering another car, managing to swerve away, but feeling shaken by the situation. Peter arrives at Howard's restaurant, where he waits to deliver an order. After a few hours, he encounters a new challenge, making deliveries in the darkness of night. Soon, he comes across the same truck, now coming directly at him. Intrigued by the truck driver's disturbing behavior, Peter honks to warn that he is running late, but this only irritates the man further, who accelerates the truck. At the last moment, Peter is saved by the town's sheriff, who appears on the scene. The driver backs off from the provocation and leaves, while the sheriff scolds Peter, who defends himself, saying he is not at fault for blocking the road since the truck wasn't moving out of his way. The sheriff then mentions that the driver must be lost, and Peter laughs. Agreeing with the possible confusion, Peter tries to alert Sheriff Nathan about the strange behavior of the driver, but Peter is ignored, as the sheriff claims to be very busy and departs. Waiting for new orders, Peter notices that his app isn't sending any more notifications, so he decides to pass the time trying to win back his money through gambling. During a poker game, he ends up losing half his money again, which leaves him quite frustrated. Peter decides to head home, but on the way, he notices he is being followed by the same truck as before. Intrigued and worried, he wonders what is wrong with that driver but decides to continue. However, the man speeds up to try to overtake him, and Peter becomes increasingly confused by the situation. In a burst of impulse, he quickly thinks and decides to throw the juice cup he had in his car towards the truck. The action works, as the unknown driver stops the vehicle, giving Peter precious time to escape. Peter celebrates his small triumph, but his happiness is short-lived. The stranger resumes the chase, this time with a clear intention to eliminate him. Desperate, Peter tries to speed up, but it's useless. The crazy driver is glued to his car, bumping against it several times in an attempt to push him off the road. Although he manages to gain some distance, when he looks back, Peter notices the man has turned off his headlights. This alarms him even further, as he is now sure that this driver really wants to kill him. Finally, Peter arrives in town and decides to stop at a restaurant to reflect on the situation. While there, Sheriff Nathan enters and approaches the young man to talk. Seizing the opportunity, Peter recounts his experience with the attempted homicide by the truck driver. Nathan asks if he recognizes any truck driver in the area, or if he has at least the truck's license plate. At that moment, a strange man is seen watching their conversation. Peter replies that he didn't see anything, and the sheriff, seeming uninterested, comments that without evidence he cannot do much. He suggests that it may be someone Peter has irritated, mentioning Rebecca, and before stepping away, asks Peter to call if anything else happens. The young man reflects in his car when he receives a notification from the app. Relieved, he decides to go to the restaurant to pick up the order. Still terrified, he fixates on a sculpture on the wall and ends up hearing the truck's horn, but is soon interrupted by the owner of the establishment. Upon seeing the delivery address, he becomes concerned, as it is up high on the mountain. With no other options and needing the money, he decides to face the situation. As he prepares to leave, the earlier stranger approaches him again, asking if he is going up the mountain. Peter confirms he is, as he has a delivery to make. The unknown man mentions the Dyatlov Pass incident, in which 9 Soviets died under mysterious circumstances while hiking in the Ural Mountains. The mention of the tragedy frightens him, but he decides to move forward, as he has no alternative. Arriving at the delivery location, he gets out of the vehicle and heads to the house, where he finds a note requesting that he leave the order on the porch, as well as informing him that the tip is inside the envelope. This makes him happy, as he feels he will be well rewarded. After leaving the order, he returns to the car. As he puts his things in the trunk, he notices that the environment is strangely quiet. Turning around, he freezes in fear upon spotting the snowplow truck once again. Gathering his courage, he approaches the vehicle and, upon checking, realizes it is empty. Frustrated, he returns to his car and decides to check the tip he received. Discovering it is only $14, he becomes irritated and decides to confront the homeowner. He knocks on the door several times, but no one answers. Already furious with the situation, he knocks more aggressively. At that moment, someone rushes past, but he doesn't notice. Checking, he notices the door is open and decides to enter the place. Peter believes that the homeowner, Mr. Plow, is involved in the attempted murder against him. Calling out loudly, he demands that the man show himself and pay for the damage to his vehicle. Without a response, he enters the living room and finds a sound system on. Upon turning it off, he notices a wallet on the table. For a moment, he considers taking the money, but decides to only take the truck driver's ID to give to the sheriff. He also finds a crucifix that catches his attention and decides to take it with him. As he prepares to leave, a loud noise coming from the basement stops him. Curious and apprehensive, he decides to investigate. He quickly descends the stairs and finds a hallway, choosing the first door. Upon opening it, he is horrified to see a woman chained, trying to scream for help. Peter rushes to help the woman and finds the key that frees her, but she, in panic, grabs the crucifix he brought and threatens him, believing he is also an assailant. Confused, Peter tries to explain that he doesn't understand the situation, but she orders him to be silent. Then, he hears the music he had turned off again and comments on this, at which point we discover there is an armed man in the adjacent room, lurking. The woman exits the room and Peter follows her, saying they just need to escape, but she seems driven by vengeance and heads straight for the assailant. Upon arriving, they find no one, and Peter tries to pull her back, asking what she is doing, but before she can respond, the man breaks through the wall and attempts to kill them. Terrified, the two run outside the house. Outside, the woman throws the crucifix to the ground and prepares to destroy it, but the man suddenly appears again and delivers an axe blow to her back, killing her. In shock, Peter falls before the murderer, who approaches ready to finish him off, but unexpectedly spares him and lets him flee. Peter jumps in the car and speeds down the road, trying to understand why all this is happening. Fuel begins to run low, increasing his desperation. He looks back, but the man has vanished. At that moment, a police car appears, and the lights blind him for a moment, causing him to lose control and crash the vehicle. Nathan approaches Peter's car, and the young man feels relieved to see the officer, but is soon reprimanded. The sheriff explains that he was looking for the missing persons and only found a wrecked car. Peter tries to explain what happened, but Nathan interrupts him several times until the boy becomes agitated and asks him to call for backup, saying there is a very dangerous man in the mountains. He claims that Mr. Plow owns a house where people are murdered and tells that he witnessed a woman die before him. Upon hearing the name Plow, the sheriff becomes deeply irritated and asks if Peter is drunk. The young man tries to argue, but is interrupted again. At that moment, Nathan notices bloodstains on Peter's shirt and asks if they are his, ordering him to exit the vehicle. Disbelieving the young man's words, the sheriff places him under arrest. As he is taken to the squad car, Peter only asks for someone to come get his car. Nathan alerts dispatch about the situation when bright lights illuminate behind them. Surprised, the sheriff tries to understand the situation, but Peter, terrified, urges him to drive fast. Ignoring the warnings, Nathan exits the squad car without noticing the danger approaching. The sheriff orders the other driver to turn off the vehicle and step out with his hands raised. At that moment, Peter runs to his car, ignoring the orders. He speeds away while a snowplow truck approaches. Nathan fires, but the shots have no effect, and the truck brutally runs over the sheriff. Now, Peter faces another problem. He is handcuffed and complains to the officer for not believing him. Despite the hatred, he cries for the sheriff's death and continues driving. When he tries to use the phone, he discovers the battery is dead. He finds a gas station and begins to refuel. Upon entering the convenience store to grab water, the clerk asks if he escaped from prison. Peter replies no and asks to use the phone, but the clerk says the owner hasn't paid the bills and is without signal. Peter asks if there is at least a handheld phone, but the man doesn't trust him. As he exits, he asks another man if he can borrow a phone, but receives a negative response. Noticing the crazy truck driver approaching, Peter hurriedly tries to escape, but forgets about the gas pump hose, which falls and starts spilling gasoline. The other man, seeing the truck coming at high speed, abandons the place and drops a cigarette near the gasoline, causing a massive explosion. Peter is in shock, but can't stop. As he drives, his cell phone powers back on, and several app notifications come in. He laughs about the situation, but soon sees the psychopath in front of him. The vehicles face off, and tired of the chase, Peter decides to confront the lunatic, accelerating towards him. However, the truck driver does the same, and when they are about to collide, Peter swerves just in time, taking a nearby road and temporarily escaping his pursuer. Crying in his car, Peter wonders why all this is happening. With no time for lamentations, the truck driver appears again to pursue him, and he, in shock, slams on the gas, not noticing the sign warning to drive below 35, as the road is extremely slippery. His vehicle begins to slide on the ice, and eventually, he stops the vehicle as the pursuer slowly approaches. However, the man knows that the area is covered in ice and decides not to take risks, and begins to honk at Peter. At this moment, Peter discovers that the whole area is made of ice and is beginning to crack. Peter runs to his car as the ice starts to break, jumps inside in a hurry, and manages to escape from the pursuer before everything collapses. He celebrates thinking he is safe while the psychopath turns off his headlights and slowly pulls away. When suddenly, he is hit by another vehicle, causing him to pass out. A few hours later, he is awakened by Rebecca and her henchman. The woman warns that he is all right. It was just a little bump. The man collects Peter's money and upon checking, discovers that he hasn't got enough. This leaves Rebecca extremely irritated, and Peter asks for more time, claiming he will get the money. The woman warns that his time is up and is furious because they tried to get close to Peter, but he managed to escape. Confused by the statement, Peter asks if they have been following him the whole time, and she confirms they have, but he was able to get rid of them. She mentions that he escaped once, but now the luck is on their side, and this time he won't be able to escape. Peter laughs at the situation, leaving Rebecca intrigued, who asks why he is laughing. He tells her that she really has strange people by her side, and the woman, not understanding, questions what he is talking about. The young man mentions the psychopath in the snowplow truck who is pursuing him, but she doesn't know what he is referring to. Rebecca asks the establishment's employee if there is a phone, and he replies that there is, but it's outside. Immediately, Rebecca instructs her henchman to go over there and call the rest of her men. The man obeys and walks toward the phone booth. Inside the establishment, Peter comments that he plans to open a food truck to change his life, stating that everything was set up for him to be his own boss and pay his bills. Rebecca says she understands his situation, that he is a nice guy and will certainly be successful, but criticizes his behavior, stating he keeps making the same mistakes, and she will not forgive him just for telling a sad story. Meanwhile, Rebecca's man is on the phone and does not notice that the psychopath is approaching. The crazy truck driver plows into the phone booth with the man inside, killing him, and the impact is heard by the owner of the establishment, who becomes alert. He doesn't pay much attention and returns to work, but at that moment someone knocks on the door. When they open it, Rebecca and Peter hear noises, and the young man, realizing what it is, goes into shock, but the woman orders him to be quiet. Armed, she goes to see what is happening and finds the establishment's owner brutally dead on the floor. The man appears and quickly knocks out Rebecca. Upon hearing the noise, Peter rushes to the kitchen, turns off the lights, and hides. The psychopath enters and begins to search for him. To avoid being found, Peter slowly moves to another location. However, he drops a spoon, and the noise catches the psychopath's attention. Peter grabs a fire extinguisher to protect himself as the psychopath approaches. The man finds him, and when he is about to kill him, Peter uses the extinguisher to attack him, gaining time to escape. As he passes the exit, He sees Rebecca lying on the floor asking for help, but Peter regrets not being able to help her and quickly returns to his car. Starting a new escape, Peter wonders where the police are when you need them. He finds a sign that the road is closed and, with no options left, decides to turn back. Soon, he comes face to face with the psychopath and, frightened, reverses the car, ignoring the warning sign and running over it. The young man floors the gas pedal and continues his escape from the crazy man who is glued to his tail. Peter wonders what that man wants from him, and when the truck driver finally catches up to him, he starts banging on the vehicle to throw him off the road. Peter realizes that the road leads to nowhere and panics. With no options, he decides to abandon the car, which is launched into an abyss along with the snowplow, causing a massive explosion. Peter, witnessing the scene, believes it is best to check if the psychopath is really dead. He looks down and sees the destruction, convincing himself that he is finally free. As he is about to leave, the psychopath reappears and grabs his leg, almost making him fall into the abyss, but Peter manages to hold onto a branch. The man grips his leg until Peter's boot comes off, allowing him to escape and climb back up. Peter finds the man's crucifix on the ground and picks it up, heading toward the edge of the abyss where he smiles joyfully. He returns home on foot, and on the way, someone offers him a ride. This benefactor is the strange man who warned him about the strange deaths on the mountain. The man asks his name and mentions that he had warned that place was dangerous. Peter says nothing about what happened, only asking if he has something to free him. The next morning, the tragedy makes the news, and everyone in town hears about the massacre known as the Snowplow Incident, which caused several deaths. It is also mentioned that the death cabin may be connected to the disappearances of the Russian tourists, and that only one woman survived the tragedy. Back to Peter, he makes his last delivery, and then takes the crucifix to sell to the man from the beginning, who is delighted to see the rare item. Peter calls the food truck seller and informs him that he managed to get the money to buy it, stating that he will pass by tomorrow to pick it up, as he had a rough night. As he lies down to rest, Peter hears the terrifying honk again, and thus the film ends.